It's often said that teenagers consider themselves immortal, but this story is a little bit different. It happened on a backpacking trip around Lake Waikaremoana in New Zealand. It was on my third visit to New Zealand in 1988. There were three of us on the trip: my college friend Henry and his son Campbell, who was then 10 years old. We arrived at one of the most beautiful places on the walk, a hut located on a high ridge way above the lake, with drops of perhaps 2,000 feet on each side, and the ridge itself was only maybe 100 feet wide. The drop on each side was just a sheer slope, almost completely vertical. A little bit of vegetation clinging to the rock face, and then a lovely view down into the valleys below on each side. So I had brought a Frisbee along with me on the hike, light enough and fun for a bit of recreation. And so Henry and Campbell and I threw the Frisbee around a bit on this ridge in the grassy area in front of the hut. I knew perfectly well that the risk of losing the Frisbee over the edge was really quite significant, but it's not an expensive thing, and it was fun to play. At one point, somebody threw it up on the roof of the hut, and Campbell scrambled up there and retrieved it. No worries, we continued playing. And then I made a bad throw, and the Frisbee went off the edge of the cliff and lodged against the sheer side of the slope, down around 20 or 30 feet below us. We could see it, but it was, as I say, just almost a vertical slope. Campbell, 10-year-old, started off heading for the edge to scramble down the slope and retrieve the Frisbee. Henry and I, needless to say, were horrified. We told him to stay back, but he was determined to continue, and I actually grabbed him and held him, physically restrained him from going down the slope. He was in tears because he wanted to retrieve the Frisbee. So this was a very stressful moment, and obviously a lot of drama. But afterwards, we talked more calmly about it together, and we analyzed our different feelings and perspectives on this event. All of us thought it would be nice to have the Frisbee back. Of course, we agreed with that. We also agreed that it was very dangerous to attempt for Campbell to attempt to go down that slope. He was an agile, athletic kid. And we agreed that the risk that he would slip, or that a piece of vegetation would come loose and he would fall to his death, was somewhere in the few percent. Most likely he would have retrieved the Frisbee and returned with it. But a couple percent chance that he would actually fall to his death. Where we disagreed was on the question of whether it was worth incurring that risk of a few percent of death to retrieve the Frisbee. Henry and I were of the view that it was not worth that risk. Campbell held the view that it was worth that risk. Fortunately, in later years, I believe Campbell's views have shifted more towards ours, but during that period of time, there certainly was a risk that he might do something that the rest of us would feel was not worth the danger.